Out of the Trump presidency, and President Trump insisted on Twitter that he did nothing wrong in his July call with the leader of Ukraine, asking for Joe Biden and his son Hunter to be investigated.
Tonight, Democrats have subpoenaed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in the ongoing impeachment inquiry. CBS 4's Natalie Brand is live for us at the White House with the latest. Natalie.
House Republicans bashed Democrats over their impeachment inquiry into President Trump as they departed Capitol Hill for a 2-week recess.
To me, it's morally wrong, legally wrong, and I hope it's politically wrong.
This is all going to blow up in the Democrats' face.
Democrats say the inquiry is above politics.
No one is above the law. The president should be held accountable.
As the congressional inquiry into the complaint picks up steam, a senior administration official confirms White House officials moved the transcript of the president's call with the leader of Ukraine to a computer system reserved for highly classified information.
As I understand, the document was handled appropriately at all times. His calls with the leaders of Mexico and Australia leaked, and then his conversation with the Russian ambassador and someone else from that embassy, I believe, leaked. And so there's great concern.
President Trump took to Twitter to bash the whistleblower, calling the person who may have shared information with that individual a spy. The president also tweeted that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff should resign. Committee Democrats came to the chairman's defense.
He has a heart and a passion for seeking justice. I think he's ultimately very qualified.
Schiff says his committee will be working through recess and wants to move quickly.
And back to that new information this evening, 3 House committees have subpoenaed Secretary of State Pompeo for documents related to Ukraine. Those committees also want to hear from 5 State Department officials mentioned in the whistleblower complaint, and they've set deadlines for all of this over the next couple of weeks. We are waiting for a response from the State Department. Also of note, the president is holding a reception tonight in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, and this will be the first time today that he is in front of cameras, so we'll wait to see if he addresses any of these new developments then. Rudabeh?
Of an impeachable offense.
An impeachment proceeding.
With an official impeachment inquiry.
Ukraine finds itself at the center of America's impeachment investigation after Donald Trump repeatedly asked his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate the family of the former Vice President Joe Biden. It's a complicated story, even for those of us who are following it every day. So here's a quick rundown of what we do and we don't know. So what were the Bidens doing in Ukraine in 2015?
We've stepped up with official assistance to help backstop the Ukrainian economy.
Well, Joe was the vice president and the focal point of American policy, so he visited often.
Burisma is the lead.
His son Hunter was the well-paid director of a controversial energy company called Burisma, which has links to the pro-Russian government which had just been overthrown. At the time, some people said that that was a conflict of interest. So did Joe Biden get Ukraine's prosecutor general, a man called Viktor Shokin, sacked? Well, he certainly boasted about it. This is him speaking last year.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Got fired.
So what's President Trump saying about it? Well, he wants Ukraine to investigate whether there's a link between the sacking of Mr. Shokin and Hunter Biden's company.
But what he said is that he wouldn't give, I think it was billions of dollars to Ukraine unless they fired the prosecutor who was looking at his son and his son's company, the company that his son worked with. And that's a very dishonest thing.
So is there any evidence to support what President Trump is saying? If there is, well, we haven't seen it yet.
But it is not true that Prosecutor Shokin was a tough prosecutor who was willing to investigate Burisma. Absolutely to the contrary. Prosecutor Shokin was dumping this investigation, and I have evidence of that. I'm following this investigation since 2013. Shokin, his predecessor, and the next prosecutor after Shokin, Yuri Lutsenko, they all were contributing to killing this case.
So there's no evidence that suggests that Vice President Biden acted differently because his son was on the board of a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma?
I haven't seen this evidence. I've seen the actions which show absolutely the contrary what happened.
So why then did Joe Biden want the prosecutor general sacked? Well, at the time there was widespread consensus among international donors like the IMF and the EU, and also locally here among activists, that Mr. Shokin was an obstacle to the fight against corruption and that he had to go.
Taking a live look at the White House right now, where President Trump is insisting today that he did nothing wrong during a phone call with Ukraine's president. But Democrats are pushing ahead with an impeachment inquiry surrounding this call. CBS reporter Natalie Brand has details from Washington.
President Trump is taking aim at House Democrats investigating his phone call with Ukraine's president. He tweeted the fake news media and Democrats working as a team have fraudulently made it look bad. It wasn't bad. It was very legal and very good. A continuing witch hunt.
What these guys are doing, Democrats are doing to this country, is a disgrace.
The whistleblower's complaint alleges senior White House officials worked to lock down all records of the president's phone call out of fear they had witnessed the president abuse his office for personal gain. When he asked Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for a favor to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter.
The nature of that call has been borne out in great detail by the call record that has now been released. So in a very substantial part, this whistleblower has already been found to be credible.
Everybody's saying, what is he hiding? What is he hiding? He released it. And so it's like, well, implicit in there is aid, even though they don't mention it. Implicit in there is 2020, even though it's not talked about. Got to stop inventing things that aren't there.
President Trump at a private fundraiser told donors he wants to know who gave the whistleblower information, and in a video obtained from the event suggested it was treason.
You know what we used to do in the old days when we were smart, right? The spies and treason, right? We used to handle it a little differently than we do now.
And I'm concerned about some of the president's comments about the whistleblower.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she wants to make sure whistleblowers do not face retaliation.
They're a very important part of uncovering wrongdoing in our government.
Joseph McGuire, the acting director of national intelligence, testified Thursday the whistleblower acted in good faith and followed the law. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The freshman rep from Detroit slapped that slogan on a T-shirt and is putting them up for sale.
And that comes just days after a formal impeachment inquiry was launched. Our Paula Tutman is following this story for us tonight.
When you go to the Rashida for Congress website page, you'll get this, but then you get this pop-up. New merch. When you push order now, you're given a choice between new merchandise. She says, you've asked for them, and now we've got them. Impeach the MF t-shirts. This is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's new fundraising campaign merchandise. We asked constituents of the 13th district in Detroit what they thought of the fundraising merchandise.
As a parent, I'm not cool with that. Yeah, I wouldn't want my kids to rock a t-shirt that said impeach the MF.
Clark Ollier is not a politician, but he comes from a political family. His brother Adam ran for state rep at the same time as Rashida Tlaib. The yard signs for his brother and Tlaib were often side by side. But Clark has strong feelings about the t-shirt sales by his congressperson.
But she put out a t-shirt to get a rise out of people, and that t-shirt would be inappropriate for you and your sisters and brothers to read.
State Rep Sherry Gay Danyogo concurs.
I don't think it's the best look.
Agree. Sometimes we need to step above and try and be maybe better than...
When they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes we want to really get them, we got a way to get them next year during the election.
In fact, even the people we found who love the shirt...
I'll probably buy one.
Would I wear it? Yeah, why not? Why not? You got one?
Don't like who's selling it.
Her position? No. If it was just a regular independent vendor or entrepreneur, most definitely. But you still have to make sure you're presenting yourself for the position that you have. So for her personally to be doing it, no.
We made numerous attempts to talk to Congresswoman Tlaib either on the phone or in district for a comment. Her spokesperson said she had a full slate and couldn't fit us in. Paula Tutman, Local 4.
All right. Thank you, Paula.
Congress is going on recess, but the impeachment inquiry is moving forward.
In fact, the first subpoenas have just been issued. CBS 2's Dick Brennan has more.
As they made their way off to a 2-week recess, House Republicans bashed Democrats over the impeachment inquiry.
To me, it's morally wrong, legally wrong, and I hope it's politically wrong.
This is all going to blow up in the Democrats' face.
Democrats say the inquiry is not about politics.
No one is above the law. The president should be held accountable.
The president was doing a torrent of tweeting, writing, "The fake news media and Democrats working as a team have fraudulently made it look bad. It wasn't bad. It was very legal and very good. A continuing witch hunt." But a senior administration official confirms White House officials moved the transcripts of the president's call with the leader of Ukraine to a computer system reserved for highly classified information.
As I understand, the document was handled appropriately at all times. His calls with the leaders of Mexico and Australia leaked, and then his conversation with the Russian ambassador and someone else from that embassy, I believe, leaked. And so there's great concern.
The president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is claiming he's the victim of false allegations in the complaint, where he's mentioned more than 30 times. It cites meetings he had with several Ukrainian officials. But on Fox News, Giuliani cited text messages as evidence he did so at the direction of the State Department.
And then I have a final one in which there's a big thank you about how my honest and straightforward discussion led to solving a problem in the relationship. Gee, I think I should get some kind of an award.
Now, despite the recess, committees are continuing their work. 3 committees have just issued their first subpoenas in the impeachment inquiry. They're demanding documents from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo related to the president's dealings with Ukraine. Christine.
A teacher at Watson B. Duncan Middle School in Palm Beach Gardens has been reassigned after an inappropriate question on a quiz about the president.
A parent tweeted out a photo of the multiple choice test question and brought it to the attention of the school district.
I don't believe it's appropriate for teachers to be forcing their opinions, or anybody at that point in our schools.
This parent, who asked not to be identified, is not happy. His daughter attends Watson B. Duncan Middle School in Palm Beach Gardens.
My daughter was doing her homework one evening at the dinner table, and she said to me, "Dad, you have to see this question on my test here." When I took one look at it, I knew that it was very unacceptable.
The parent tweeted out a photo of a multiple choice test question given to students in a computer applications class. The question reads, 45th President, 2017, Republican, real estate businessman, idiot, and below that question are several possible answers. Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter. Trump is the 45th president. He took office in 2017. He's a Republican and a real estate businessman, so he would be the correct answer. But the question seems to imply that he's also an idiot. The parents say that teacher that gave the question to students should know better.
There's an obvious example of indoctrination in our school systems where teachers are forcing their opinions on our children. I'd like the kids, I'd like the teachers, I'd like the parents to know that we need to be on the lookout for this stuff. And when it happens, we need to let people know. It made me sad that we're forcing our kids now for what to think instead of how to think.
Well, the school district of Palm Beach County is investigating. The district said in a letter that was sent to parents, it apologized for the incident, the teacher's, quote, lack of good judgment, and the, quote, offensive verbiage used in the question. Beyond that, the district did not comment on the inquiry.
The whistleblower complaint says senior White House officials tried to lock down, in their words, records that were related to Trump's phone call with the president of Ukraine. What the House Speaker is now calling, as you heard her say, a cover-up. The whistleblower adds that the move, quote, underscored to me that White House officials understood the gravity of what had transpired in the call.
Now that we've seen the whistleblower complaint, it may very well turn into the House Democrats' roadmap for impeachment. That's how potentially damaging and detailed this newly released complaint is. It describes a wide-ranging and long-running scheme by the president and his associates to try to pressure Ukraine to investigate a political rival. It also includes new allegations of an effort to, quote, cover up some of the evidence. Now, there are many leads and witnesses and questions outlined in this 7-page document. The president is, of course, the central figure here, but also potentially implicated, at least in this whistleblower report, Vice President Pence, Attorney General Bill Barr, the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, multiple White House officials, and many others.
Now, the Washington Post reports the White House has taken extraordinary steps over the past 2 years to block details of President Trump's phone calls with foreign leaders from becoming public following embarrassing disclosures early in his administration that enraged the president and created a sense of paranoia among his top aides.
There's always been a fine line in terms of distributing presidential phone call transcripts around government. You want to distribute them far enough that they can be of value to the execution of our national security and foreign policy plans, yet you don't want to distribute them so far that perhaps slightly embarrassing or slightly sensitive material could be getting too broad a dissemination. This White House clearly has made a decision that sharing the conversations of the president with foreign leaders with people who then execute that policy is not a good idea. I think that speaks volumes about what is actually being said in those conversations.
All records of that call, including what we think is this document that's now been released, those notes from that call, were locked down, in the words of the whistleblower, that they were essentially migrated onto a special server system that's usually reserved for the most highly classified information inside the National Security Council. What's your reaction to that? And does your committee have the authority, have the jurisdiction to investigate that further?
We certainly have the authority and we have the jurisdiction to investigate that. And here's another irony today, and that is the Department of Justice opinion says that the Director of National Intelligence doesn't have jurisdiction here because this doesn't involve an intelligence issue. This involves foreign interference in our elections. Well, first of all, that should come as a revelation to the Director of National Intelligence that he doesn't have jurisdiction over foreign interference. That is a central part of his mission. In fact, that's exactly what the Inspector General meant when the Inspector General said that this is what the American people would understand as core to the function of the director. But more than that, where do they hide this stuff? They hide it with the covert action files in this super secret computer system that's marked for classified intelligence information.
Today, for the very first time since the Ukraine whistleblower scandal broke, we got to hear sworn testimony from a participant in it. One of the people who was essentially part of the cover-up was on the Hill testifying before Congress. The acting director of national intelligence, Joseph McGuire, a person tasked with protecting our elections and our nation's secrets, hemming and hawing in a pained and tortured way to explain that he was just trying his best. But fundamentally, what he did was allow the White House and the Justice Department to catch and hope to kill an extremely damning complaint against the president, arguably in contravention of the law. The acting DNI basically made himself a participant in the cover-up, as Congressman Eric Swalwell laid out here.
And you read that allegation, and the first people that you go to after you read that allegation are the White House lawyers who are telling the White House officials who see this transcript and move it into a secret compartmentalized system. Those are the first people you go to.
Well, let's say a couple of things.
Is that yes or no?
Yes, but
okay.
Also,
So I'm gonna keep going here. So you get this complaint. Inspector General says urgent, credible. You have no wiggle room to not go to Congress, and instead you send your concern to the subject of the complaint, the White House.
And now back to the Trump presidency, where the big news of the week is the formal impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump.
Margaret Brennan, moderator of Face the Nation, joins us now. Margaret, good to see you. So what are the next steps now for the House's impeachment inquiry?
Well, this is a process that we are just beginning. We know that Congress is scheduled to go on a 2-week fall recess, but the House Intelligence Committee, which is where the investigation is being led from at this point, will continue working through that recess. They've already got 5 depositions scheduled with State Department officials who've been involved in and around Ukraine and have had contact in one way or the other with the project that Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal attorney, has been working on. Remember, Giuliani, who will be a guest of ours this Sunday on Face the Nation, is the person publicly leading the charge, calling on Ukraine to share political dirt on Joe Biden and his son. The question now is, was there an involvement there directed from the administration itself that really involved other members of the U.S. government, and whether this was expected to be a quid pro quo or at least an abuse of the office in some way, calling for foreign election interference. A lot to get through on Sunday. We're going to try to break down the political and the legal steps on Sunday with a number of key officials, including Senator Chris Murphy and two members of the House Intelligence Committee, along with Rudy Giuliani and Senator Lindsey Graham.
Margaret, the phone call that plays such a big role in this, explain the significance of the president talking to Ukraine's president about Joe Biden and his son Hunter.
Well, what we have seen from this partial call record that was released, it's not a verbatim transcript. You see repeated reference by the president to what he calls corruption, and he brings up Joe Biden, his chief political opponent, who's leading in the polls for the nomination in 2020, and bringing up what he continues to say are insinuations of corruption that need to be looked at by the Ukrainian government, and also asking for his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to hold some meetings with the Ukrainian government. Now, Rudy Giuliani doesn't work for the U.S. taxpayer or the U.S. government, and asking for a corruption investigation that had already been closed in regard to this gas company that Hunter Biden, the vice president's son, worked with, seemed to be dredging up political dirt rather than actual ongoing investigations or need for them. So there was the real concern among many national security officials. 300 of them came out with a letter saying this is abuse of the office, and this was a group of Republicans and Democrats in the past 24 hours. So depending on what political side of the aisle you stand on, you may have a very different read on this, but at least for those in the national security community, they say no president should be able to do this.